Hi, it's Richard here from OneSight Solutions. Welcome to this module on BACnet. So BACnet is a huge subject, so we won't be going through everything that's BACnet. We'll just be looking at the very basics really to set up a BACnet on your station. So to do that we need to go to drivers. So I'm on my remote host now, and then select new at the bottom and change. So we want the BACnet. So okay. No need to change the name, you can only add one BACnet network. So when I double click on it, you'll see at the bottom there's a few buttons and most of them are grayed out, and the one we want to use, the Discover, is grayed out. So there's three things we need to take care of now before we can that Discover button is available. The first thing, if you unfold BACnet network in your sidebar, you'll see local device. If you double click on that, the third line down is object ID. So this is where we put in the device instance for our device. So a good convention to follow here is to use the last three digits of your IP address of your remote host. So mine's 6205, so I'll put that in there. This is just to avoid any kind of clashes or any duplicates. Save that. So that's the first thing taken care of. The next two things are underneath network, which is underneath BACnet.com. So buried quite deep down is our IP port. So if I double click on that, this is where I now have to select which of the two adapters I have on my Jace I'm going to be using. So I'm going to be using port 1, which is DM0. Port 2 is DM1, so it's DM0 I'm going to be using. Save that. So that's two things taken care of now. The last thing is just to enable that port. So to do that, a bit further down the list there, you've got enabled. Save that to true. And now I should be able to go back to my BACnet network and my Discover button should be available. And it is. So now I can hit that. So this is my search when I'm searching for devices. So if you could clamp this down if you're on a big network and there's lots of devices to save a bit of time. I know I've only got one BACnet device in my network, so I can just leave the search fields the same, and it doesn't take very long in my instance. Okay, so there's my device. So I can now just drag that down and add it to my database. Okay, so now I'm now in my device manager. So I can now, if I double click my point shield, I'll be in my point manager. And I've done a Discover a second ago, so it's kind of cached that. But now you'd hit Discover and find all your objects. So a good idea here is to organize them by object type by clicking on this box here, and then you can bring all the types in together. So if I select all my analog inputs, I can add all those together. And there shouldn't be anything I need to change it's a read-only point, so it's a numeric point it's going to be using, and it's enabled. If you wanted to, if you added another policy, which I'll show in a second, you might want to change the policy as you bring the points in, but you can change that afterwards. So if you look down on my database, everything's used the default policy at the moment. So you can change that, or you can add your own policies. So if you look further down in your BACnet network, there's a tuning policy in your sidebar. If you unfold that, the default policy, if we have a look, that's how it's set up by default. So you can change that, or you can just create your own policies. So just duplicate it, give it a new name. Okay, so I can double click on that and edit that now. So change this to fast. Save that. Add another one. Just duplicate it again. Call this one slow. Edit that one. And also a good idea is to have a COV change of value. So if I duplicate it again, if I go and edit that one now, what I can do now is change where it says use COV. I can change that to true. Once you've selected that, it will just ignore the pole frequency and just see a change of value. And you've also got use confirmed COV. You don't need to use that. If you can get away without using that, then I would suggest you don't use that, because it just uses a bit more comms. So now I've got 3 different policies in now. So I could now go back to my points. So I could just go and change these now, double click on them and change the policy here to whatever I feel necessary. It's a good idea not to put them all on fast. Just be realistic about this. If it's a space temperature, it's not going to change very often. So, maybe put that on a slow policy. Return temperatures, again, they're going to be very slow to react. So you can put them, sorry, that's a speed. I put exactly what you shouldn't do there. Put it on a slow. So you can just go and change all these policies afterwards, or you can select them. So here's my set points here, my heat and my cool set point. If I add these two at the same time, just by dragging them down again, I can use this multi-select wizard to change both of them at the same time. So I can put this on a COV every time it changes value, and make sure also that they're writable, these points. And then once you've made something writable, it goes back to enabled false, so we have to take care of that as well. So what you need to make sure of is all your points in your database are all healthy. You don't want to see any points which are disabled or which would be grey. So if I now bring in my analog outputs, drag them down, so you can see they're disabled. So if I bring them all in disabled, you can see I'd get a grey line. So if you get that, you can then just highlight them all again, click on edit at the bottom, and then you're presented with this wizard again, and you can just go on and click on true, and they're all healthy. So you carry on just adding all your points in the same fashion, just making sure they're all healthy once you get them into there, and make sure that they're writable if they're meant to be writable. Again, you can enable this this column, and you'll be able to see in your table. So last thing I was going to quickly show you was how to expose points on your device. So if you unfold local device in your tree here, in your subnetwork, in your nav sidebar, and then click on export table. So now I've got a discover at the bottom again, but this time when it does the discover, it's actually going to come up with my BQL query builder, and I'm going to be discovering points on my JACE. So I can now say I want to find, I don't know, I've got a couple of Modbus points here. Got these 2 Modbus points. So if I discover, if I try to do a discover inside my pump 1, it will be looking inside pump 1. So you have to discover on the folder above it. So okay, and there we are. There's my 2 points. So if I add those 2 points now to my export list, they will now be discoverable, and people will be able to discover those points now because I put them on my export list. Okay, so one more final thing just to show you quickly, because it's actually a question that comes up a lot in tech support, is how do I add a 485 network, a BACnet network? So you don't do what you might think and add another BACnet network. You actually go into the BACnet network you've created already, which defaults to IP. That's why when I set this IP one up, I already had an IP port on there. So if I then go back to my area where I saw when I set my IP port up, which is underneath my network underneath BACnet.com. You can see here I've got an IP port already set up there, which I just already set up. So to set up a 485, I just add another network. So if I open up my palette for my BACnet, down here we've got network ports. So you've got 3 different types you can add there. You can only have one IP port, but I can add MST ports to this. And to do it, you just drag it on your nav sidebar, release it on top of network, and then you can just go ahead then and configure your MSTP settings. So you'd have to go and select your COM port that you're using, your baud rate, etc. to set that up. So that's where you go to add your MSTP ports. Okay, so that's it on BACnet. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you're enjoying watching these videos. If you are, please look at the bottom, click on the thumb to like it, and also subscribe, and I'll see you next time.